Okay, so good morning from me too. So my name is Koski, and I come from the Finnish Geospatial Research Institute in the National Land Survey of Finland. And I will give my presentation about mapping small streams and ditches with deep learning in the ATMO project. So let's see if I can change the slides. Okay, so in this ATMO hydrographic features part, the focus is really on small natural streams and ditches. Those are the most sort of the features with the most potential for improvement in the National Land Survey's topographic database. Traditionally, they have been quite difficult to map, but now with high resolution elevation models, they can be actually quite well detected visually. And yeah, there's a lot of potential for improvement. And now also, as other features are being extracted from the elevation models, such as contour lines, there's some inconsistencies with the automatically extracted contour lines and the current natural streams and ditches, or small natural streams and ditches in the topographic database, and we are hoping that this will also be fixed then. And really, we are focusing on these less than 5 meter wide water courses. So, if I can change the slide again. Okay, so okay, now I lost the slide here. Some technical difficulties. Okay, so here's the overview of the work. So I've divided this into sort of 5 parts. So we have the training data, then we have the input data, and we have the deep learning framework, the post-processing, and then we also want to do some assessment of results. And currently, we are at the phase where we sort of have the first iteration of this training data, input data, deep learning framework, and post-processing. But we are starting to now improve all these different parts. So I will next go into all of these in a little bit more detail. Can I change the slide, please? Okay, so first I would talk about the training data. So we have digitized manually all water courses from an area of 36 square kilometers. And we have used a variety of background layers for this. So from the elevation models itself, you don't see those ditches and streams that well. So we have used mainly a topographic position index to visually highlight these features in the terrain. So the topographic position index, if you are not familiar with it, it's the difference with the point's elevation and the mean elevation of its neighborhood with a given radius. And then we have also supported that with the use of hill shading layer. And then in a second iteration of trying to improve this data, we have also used flow accumulation layer to try to better detect natural streams. And then we have given these digitized features a type attribute, which can be basically a ditch or any ditch except roadside ditches. And then we have roadside ditches, and then we have natural streams. And the reason we want to possibly separate ditches and roadside ditches is because, for example, in the current topographic maps, we don't want to have roadside ditches. So this gives us a possibility to later possibly try to filter out some features and see how that works. And we have some preliminary experiments done on that as well. Then we have an uncertainty attribute, which gives a rough idea of about how much uncertainty is involved when digitizing that feature. Okay, we could change the slide, please. So about this uncertainty, so what to digitize, it's not so clear always. There's a lot of uncertainty. So for example, in this image here on the right side, there's this topographic position index, and it's quite difficult to tell exactly what is a ditch there and what is not, or what should be digitized from it. There's varying shapes and forms of features. There's partly filled up ditches. Some ditches are maintained, some are not. There can be growth in ditches, or there can be small bridges over ditches that then affect the elevation model. And then also the point cloud is not exactly perfect. There's some areas where there's not that many points in the point cloud, and then that makes it difficult to detect ditches under it. So there's a lot of human interpretation coming into play, and well, we have this uncertainty score, and we have also just used one person to digitize this whole area, and then we have a couple of other people who have just checked the most difficult areas there, and then decided together what to digitize. So once we have digitized these features, then we have made that into a label data set by buffering the features 1.5 meter, and then rasterizing that into a 0.5 meter grid. And then we have made as input data, we have made an elevation model for the same grid using a 5 point per square meter point cloud. And then during training, from these data sets, we cut tiles from random locations, and then we do also some augmentations, random rotation, and mirroring, which is a 50% chance of it being mirrored. So these data sets are divided into 80% training data and 20% validation data. And of course, in validation, when we do the validation, we go systematically through the validation area. So we don't do any random things there. So we are using unit basically, but there's some modifications. So we have optimized speed here, and we have simplified unit a little bit. So this is the general architecture. We are planning to try some other alternatives as well, probably, or some at least other versions of unit during this project. That's our plan. And here is we get the results then from the unit. So we get an F1 score of 0.875. That is sensitive to where we choose the validation area from. So currently 36 square kilometers is not that big of an area, I think. And if we change the validation area to something else, we might get a little bit different score. But in terms of testing different things, trying out different things, we can use this as a reference. So here you can see then visually we have the label data set on the left side, and then we have the results on the right side. And well, if you look at it quickly, it looks quite similar, but there's some differences. So we can go to the next slide. I've highlighted a few of them. You can probably find more of them. So for example, up in the left corner, you can see some additional ditches being found, or maybe they're streams, but I think they're ditches. And then in these three other highlighted parts, you can see some sections of ditches missing. But this is a particularly good area, which is nice to show as an example. We can go to the next slide, where we have a lot more problems here. But I took the TPI here as well, the TPI layer, and if you look at it and compare it to where the problems really are, it's usually that the ditches aren't actually that clear in the TPI either. So those are quite difficult locations typically. But then we have also other kinds of tricky parts. One particular one is the natural streams. I think that's the biggest sort of challenge we have at the moment, that natural streams, we don't get those well mapped here. Usually they get cut like this. The green one is the label data set, and then the red one is the predictions. Roadside ditches, sometimes they cause some problems. It's sort of also, we don't know why. In this particular example, you can see under the green one, but they are actually quite clear in the TPI. And then we have this kind of wide water cross sections which cause problems it might be that they're not that common. So it can be a difficult kind of feature to detect, but they are problematic if we want to have the sort of water flow network and the ditch gets cut there. And then this thing that I already touched upon is when you have quite sparsely these ground points in the point cloud, and you get sort of holes in the point cloud, and then the elevation model itself is distorted. So these are the most common kind of other problems, in addition to where just the ditches aren't that clear. You can go to the next slide. So in terms of post-processing, we have done this kind of vectorization process where we just polygonize the results, and then we do some simplification, because that helps in the next part, which is where we extract the center line with this kind of approximate medial axis, and then we just filter the shortest vectors out. But this is a very rough version, so this is probably going to be a little bit improved, but it works quite okay already. In Atmo project, we probably won't be able to do, however, all post-processing that is needed to get feature for the National Land Survey topographic database, because there are far bigger issues. And one thing is that we probably don't want everything that we find in the final data set, and we might want to have some kind of classification there in place. So we might want, for some use cases, you might want the roadside ditches for maps, for example. You don't want the roadside ditches, so you need this kind of classification as well in place. Then there are features that sort of cut the water courses, like pools and ponds. The water flows through, but they don't. They are not found in with the unit network or with the model. And these pools and ponds, we have actually started to digitize them, and we might try to see how they could be found with machine learning. But then there are also even trickier features, like in the lower right corner, you see this image. There's sort of a swamp area, which is kind of narrow and long. And in the current topographic database, there's a water course running through that, and you can't really see it at all in the topographic position index. And really, it's not that clear which swamp areas the water flows through and which are just basically swamps with water staying still. Then we also have underground water courses, and also that includes culverts, so where the water flows under a road, and those can't be detected with this method. And somehow, if we want to have a hydrographic flow network, so we want to know where the water flows, we need all these parts of the network in place. And that's something that is what the National Land Survey's topographic database features should be like. Okay, so in the Atmo project, what we are planning to do, however, is we want to test different input data. So we have only used the elevation model, but we could use something like flow accumulation, where something many kilometers away could affect something in another area. We could use the topographic position index itself, and then there's a lot of other layers also we could use, and we could use these individually, or we could use them in combination with each other. Then we also want to test different networks, like I already touched upon, and there's some networks that have already been used for similar use cases that we are particularly interested in. And then we want to do some kind of assessment of results, but it's not yet quite clear how we want to assess these end results, because, like I said, we can't get the final features because of various issues that will probably not be solved in the Atmo project. So thank you. That was all from me, and you can probably place the questions in chat.